Welcome to Conversations with Big Rich. This is an interview-style podcast. These interviewed are all involved in the off-road industry. Being involved, like all of my guests are, is a lifestyle, not just a job. I talk to past, present, and future legends, as well as business owners, employees, media, and land use warriors. Men and women who have found their way into this exciting and addictive lifestyle we call off-road. We discuss their personal history, struggles, successes, and reboots. We dive into what drives them to stay active in off-road. We all hope to shed some light on how to find a path into this world that we live and love and call off-road.
Whether you're crawling the Red Rocks of Moab or hauling your toys to the trail, Maxxis has the tires you can trust for performance and durability. 4 wheels or 2. Maxxis tires are the choice of champions because they know that whether for work or play, for fun or competition, Maxxis tires deliver. Choose Maxxis. Tread victoriously.
Have you seen 4Low magazine yet? 4Low magazine is a high-quality, well-written, four-wheel drive-focused magazine for the enthusiast market. If you still love the idea of a printed magazine, something to save and read at any time, 4Low is the magazine for you. 4Low cannot be found in stores, but you can have it delivered to your home or place of business. Visit 4lowmagazine.com to order your subscription today. On this episode of Conversations with Big Rich, I'll be talking with a guy that has been doing it his own way. Self-taught, tinkering early in life, from coaster carts and go-karts to race cars. That's right, Derek Trent with Trent Fab. Good morning, Derek Trent. This is take 2, you might say. Another one of those embarrassing moments when the interviewer does not hit the record button. So, Derek, thank you for taking the time and doing this conversation over again this morning. It's good to talk to you. How have you been?
Been really well. Things are going great. It's my favorite time of year. I really love summer and getting out and doing stuff. So, but great to hear from you, Rich.
Yeah, most excellent. So, just let everybody know I'm sitting in Montana in an RV park with with lousy cell service, but luckily Starlink saves the day. Thank you, Elon Musk. And so here we are, second take. Derek, let's talk about where you were born and raised.
Okay, sure. I was born back east in the greater Washington, D.C. area. My dad was politically involved and was out there working for, I believe, the Nixon administration at the time. And anyway, shortly after that, we moved out west. My dad got a job on the Stanford campus working for the Hoover Institution. So we moved to the South San Francisco Bay Area, and we lived in Portola Valley.
Which is a very, very nice area to grow up in, the wide open spaces.
Yeah, I think everybody had at least a couple acres and, rolling hills and horse trails and, it was a great place to be, great climate. Definitely a lot different than it is these days. Like I said, back then it was pretty much just horse country.
Right, and now it's been taken over by by all those in the tech industry.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a real busy place. I don't spend much time down there anymore. It's just you feel like all you're doing is spending your time sitting in stoplights and stuff like that.
Yeah, I grew up in a little farther north on the peninsula, San Bruno, California, and spent a lot of time between Pacifica and San Bruno. And I go back now. I go down to San Jose, Santa Clara for the 49er games, and then try to skirt the whole Bay Area as much as possible because of the traffic and the congestion, and it's just not the same as it was when I was growing up, and it's not a pleasure to be down there so much.
Yeah, like I said, I really only go down there if I have to, and I don't have a lot of reasons to need to go down there. So,
Right.
yeah, I guess you could say I'm fortunate in that regard.
So you went to school there? We did talk about you going back for first and second grade back east, and being in an
Yeah.
all Catholic boys' school, um, and the cold. What was the memories there? Was just the cold, basically.
Well, I was really young. It was first grade and half of second grade, and 1980s. My dad was working for Ronald Reagan, and I remember Reagan getting shot, and I remember really cold winters and having to wear a tie to school, and just was a lot different than being a kid that was used to living in the Bay Area, wearing shorts and sweatshirts all winter long.
So then you moved back to the Bay Area with your mom, and back to
Yes,
the
yeah,
Portola Valley area,
right.
and then school. Uh, Good student, bad student, indifferent.
Um, average student. Um, right when we moved back to the Bay Area, it was actually discovered that I was dyslexic, and that was I was kind of explaining a lot of the problems that I was having, in school and stuff like that. And I was in a public school, and I had a really good teacher who kind of taught me how to deal with it, and let me realize that it can be an advantage, and that a lot of dyslexic people are above average intelligence and very creative. So I think I got the creative side, and I just always kind of explored that, and um, you know, basically, I like building things and stuff like that. I learned that early on.
Yeah, when we talked earlier, you said that your your mom just kind of let you loose in the garage with tools, and
Yeah.
what kind of things were you building?
So mostly coaster cars and stuff like that. We had a pretty good supply of old things that had wheels on them, and plywood and two by fours and screws and nails, and we kind of had a lot of junk for me to kind of pick through and build things. And we lived on top of a big hill, so early on I remember building a lot of coaster cars and stuff like that, and just anything I could do to make something that would go fast down a big hill.
And any big wrecks?
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember as a kid always having skin knee and bruises and scabs and stuff like that. Not many broken bones or anything like that, but I just always remember being kind of banged up.
From coaster cars.
Yeah, yeah, stuff like that.
And you got into riding motorcycles early?
Yeah, I think I got my first motorcycle when I was 7, and we lived in a place where there's a lot of open space and a lot of horse trails and things like that. I can remember riding my motorcycle all the way to the ocean, which is probably about 40 miles, all on horse trails and back roads and things like that. And it's just a really really good time, a great place to grow up.
Did you ever have any altercations with the horsey people?
Yeah, yeah. No, it was kind of funny. Usually just sort of pull over and stop and let them yell at you for a little while, and most of the time that was about it. And a couple times I was got in some trouble with the law, and was told to push my motorcycle home, which was in a pretty hilly area and stuff like that. So but no serious trouble. They were
Did you ever really push your motorcycle all the way home, or just till out of
pushed
sight?
it. Yeah, well, I pushed it until I was pretty sure they were gone.
There you go. Okay, good. I didn't want to see you be, a total anarchist, but I didn't want to see you be, complacent either. So, all right.
Yeah, yeah. After 20 minutes, half an hour, or something like that, you're like, I don't think he's coming back, and it's a really big hill.
Then just rip it up. Okay, cool. And when did you get into skiing?
Really young. I started skiing when I was 3.
3. Wow. Okay.
That was yeah. My father took me up and kind of hold me between his legs, and he said about after a couple hours of that, he just sort of let me go. And I don't know, he was kind of funny. He said I was so little that I just sort of slide in between all the moguls and stuff like that. But
When I learned to ski, I was a little bit older, but it was up in Daly City. Well, the first time I went skiing, we were at Heavenly, and my parents wouldn't. I wanted to try it. They didn't buy me a ticket. They got me some rental gear, and I just would walk up the hill and walk, and then ski down, walk up, ski down, walk up, ski down, and after that, doing that all day long, they said, "Okay, obviously he likes doing this." So there used to be an artificial hill in Daly City that was like carpeted, and then they'd like blow shaved ice onto it. And so in the evenings, we'd go take ski lessons in Daly City, California. And then eventually they changed it to like a plastic AstroTurf type composite stuff. But that's where I first learned to ski. And then, of course, it was Sierra Tahoe and Heavenly and all the Tahoe areas. So, yeah, I get it. Fun
Yeah,
stuff.
I'm pretty sure at Squaw Valley, I think it was kids under 6 or 7 skied for free back in those days. And we had a motor home, and we would just we drive up and we'd park it right in front of the ticket office, and and just spend the whole weekend there. It's pretty cool back then. Like, you could do that.
I like Squaw. Although,
Yeah.
what is it now? Pacific or Palisades?
Yeah, yeah, Palisades. It's
Yeah. Being politically
definitely kind
correct.
of sad. Yeah, if you could call it that.
So then, growing up, high school, you what kind of electives did you take? What was the besides the reading, math, and the basics?
So the only thing my high school really offered was wood shop and metal shop, and it was 1 semester each. So
Ooh, that was
basically,
it.
yeah, half a school year in wood shop, which I did my freshman year because I was so excited to be able to take something like that, and then the second half of the year was metal shop. So I think I made a candy dish, a cutting board, a coat rack. Boy, I don't even know. A trivet, one of those things with tile that you put something hot on.
Right.
Um, so, um, and then metal shop. We made a toolbox. We made like a fence latch, which is actually kind of fun. Heating up square stock and twisting it and stuff like that.
Right.
Um, Dustpan.
So
What
question
else?
question: How
Yeah.
much of that stuff is still around? Does mom have it all?
No, no.
No.
I think it's all gone. Um, Honestly, I don't have a whole lot left. Over the years, there's been times where I had to travel light for a little while, and a lot of the stuff that people hang on to for a lifetime, I don't really have anymore.
Right. Okay.
So, and I guess I just sort of learned that it's all just stuff.
Right. That's true. Stuff is the only thing I don't have my mom's got some of the stuff that I built in wood shop and artwork and stuff from back in grade school, that kind of stuff
Yeah.
that kind of is embarrassing. Um,
Uh-huh.
and then there's some of the photos when I was in college. It went to school as a commercial photographer and had a lot of photos that I gave out during like Christmas time to family members. Because
Uh-huh.
I was spending all my money in college, drinking and partying and trying to stay in college, not going to go buy presents. So I do nice scenic photography and that kind of stuff, and give them to the parents and the others. And so some of those things are coming back around. But the thing that I miss that I wish I had were yearbooks from high school, and I don't know why. Don't know why. Do you communicate with anybody from back then?
Not really. I kind of went my own way. I don't think I really had a lot in common with a lot of the people that I grew up with.
Okay.
I think a lot of them stayed down there, probably went into the tech industry and, stuff like that. And I was always, more mechanical and more blue collar, I guess you could say. Right away when I was young, I realized I liked the Tahoe area, especially the North Lake Tahoe area. And I knew that, that's where I wanted to be.
And so then after high school, you did some college?
Yeah, I did. I went up to University of Oregon, and I did 2 years there, and I got my AAA, and it came time to pick a major, and I had to do some real soul searching, and I realized that I kind of wanted to pursue cars. And the weird thing was at that age, I really didn't know very much about cars. I think people assume because of what I did that, I grew up with a dad who owned a shop, and, he taught me everything I know. And I just sort of grew up doing this stuff. But, I think I was about 21 years old, and I hit a point where I had to make a choice. It's, what am I going to do? Am I going to major in business? Am I going to major in sociology like my counselor keeps telling me I should do because it's very manageable? And I'm like, I don't want to just get a worthless college degree. I want to learn how to do something. So I made the choice. I went to automotive school, and I got my 2-year degree and my ASC certification, and I had a certificate that said I was qualified to work on cars. I mean, I really knew nothing, but I at least had a start and small toolbox, and I was decent at taking stuff apart and putting it back together.
And earlier in our conversation, or the previous conversation that I didn't record, you said that while you were in college is when you started making trips back down to Tahoe in summertime and got into wheeling. But let's preface that by your first vehicles. You what was your first vehicle?
So my first vehicle was a Volkswagen Scirocco.
Okay. And how much modifications did you do to that?
Like I said, I didn't really know a lot about cars. I just knew that I liked cars. So I really didn't do a whole lot. I put a stereo in it and kind of figured that out. I mean, I was pretty good with woodworking, from the coaster cars and stuff like that. And I had the garage full of woodworking tools. So, I built speaker boxes and stuff like that. And then I actually I started a business detailing cars. And
Okay.
basically wasn't a very big investment. Just really had to buy all the waxes and stuff like that. And back then you couldn't just watch a YouTube to figure out how to do it. You just sort of had to kind of figure it out. But figured it out on my own car. And one day one of my mother's friends saw me washing my own car and my mom's car in the driveway, and asked if I could do hers. So next thing you know, all my afternoons and weekends were spent, detailing all my mom's friends' cars. So it was kind of a cool deal and some good side money, neighbors and stuff like that too.
Right. Stuff that you didn't have to report.
yeah.
Especially as a kid. We're going to preface that so that the IRS doesn't try to come back on you. No.
Yeah. So, I remember, I think I get like $40 a car for a wash and wax, and that was pretty big money back then.
Yeah, not bad at all. So then from car detailing and your Scirocco, your next vehicle was a
It would be a 91 Jeep Wrangler. So that was the first year of the high output 4 liter.
which
So
which was what, like an extra 20 horsepower?
I think it was like 190 horsepower.
Right. Yep.
And with stock tires on it and stuff like that, it was pretty impressive. Um, then of course you put 33s on it, and it's a pig, and you don't understand why, and you got to start figuring out gearing and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it was a real learning curve, but lots of fun.
And what kind of things did you learn? What kind of adaptations did you make to that 91 Wrangler?
So the Dana 35, of course, gave me problems. The C-clipped rear axle was just a real pain. So I ended up doing some research, and I came across a Jeep Comanche metric 1-ton rear axle, and it was a Model 20, and it had thick tubes and pretty beefy. I believe they were 31 spline shafts, and so I basically learned how to cut leaf spring perches off and weld new ones on and get all that stuff in and figured out, and actually made a well, nowadays it'd probably be pretty embarrassing to look back and see what it looked like, but did a truss on it and stuff like that. So um, ended up doing a reverse shackle conversion on it, and I think that was about it.
Okay. And how long did you have that one?
So I had that one for about 5 years, and honestly, I had it the whole time I was up in Oregon, and I did so much mud wheeling in that thing, and didn't really, I wasn't very good about cleaning back then, and going straight to the power washer. So by the time I was done with my Oregon days, I pretty much had to sell it before it fell apart.
The frame all full of
Just
everything.
mud
Yeah.
everywhere. Every hole in that frame was a spot for mud to get in there, and I think those frame rails had to have just been full of mud. I when I got back to California, I did the best I could and washed every bit of evidence I could off, and I did the Krylon paint job all over the frames and springs and shined it up really good, and uh, you know put it down there on El Camino with a for sale sign on it.
And somebody bought it.
Yeah,
Obviously.
actually, it sold in like 2 days.
Wow.
So yeah, and then I reinvested my money into a '97 Wrangler, and was all excited about the coil springs and stuff like that, and the link suspension, and then I think the very first time I took it in the Rubicon, I ripped one of the lower links off the axle, one of the link mounts off the axle, and it was definitely not as it was kind of a step backwards. I actually regretted it. I think just going with like a spring over on a YJ is way better, especially back then, than going with the TJ.
Just because of it was, most of the people I know that went to the early TJs loved them for the fact that they performed. They felt they performed better. Are you saying it was because of the maintenance and everything?
The
just
short
being
links, yeah, the short links, the link mounts were all just tin and stuff like that. It was out of the box, it just wasn't really something you could wheel. Whereas, out of the box, a YJ was pretty damn tough, and just a simple spring over, and the thing was really ready to go.
right. Okay.
So,
And so then, what'd you? How long did you have that 97 Wrangler?
I kept it for years. After I started my shop, I basically I back halved it, and then I took it to a Cal Rocks. I think that was my first event ever, which you were running. You and Bob Rogie
Right.
were running that event, and I did terrible, but I think I finished like one course, and I was so proud of myself for that. And, after that, I took the thing in back to the shop, and I just completely cut it up. Um, got almost completely rid of the body except for the cowl and the hood, and other than that, I completely cut the frame away and just I basically turned it into a buggy. And the tube map is pretty much identical to a lot of the buggies that I built up until I think about 2008 was when I finally went away from that particular tube map.
Okay. And was what was that first event? Was that Donner or Moonrocks or?
No, it would have been I'm sorry, down in Johnson Valley.
Oh,
What do they call that place out there in Johnson Valley?
Cougar Buttes.
Um, Cougar Buttes, that's it.
Okay. Yep,
So,
there were some good event sites we had down there in Cougar Buttes.
yeah, no, it was pretty cool. I think that was Dustin, the Red Bull driver, Dustin Webster. I think that was his first event in the uh, the S10 car that he
Okay.
got from Walker. So Bob Rogie had just back halved it and shortened it.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
What
little
else
bit
do
of
you remember from that event?
just doing terrible and just getting my ass handed to me. I mean, I think I still had the God, what was I running for a rear axle? I think I had a Scout Dana 44 in the rear, and I had a high pinion Dana 30 in the front. And I showed up and was in the same class with Dustin, I think.
Right. And
you know, so but it was
taking a pocket knife to a gunfight. Yeah.
yeah, but man, I it just it really kind of inspired me, inspired me to really start building, um and I did after that. I completely cut the car up after that.
And when did you were you ready for the next event? What was your next event?
Oh man, I don't even remember. My next event, boy, I think my next event was Rocking for the Kids, down
Okay.
in Placerville, and I it was the first event I ever won, and it was a rock race, and that was kind of more what I wanted to do anyway. I didn't really have the patience for rock crawling, so but I don't know if you remember, but they had like 100 yards of just boulders, and it was just an all out drag race, and I think it came down to me and that purple buggy with the Volvo portal axles,
Right.
and I beat him in the. I can't remember exactly if they did it timed or if they had elimination rounds. I think they had elimination rounds, but I remember it coming down to just him and myself, and and winning that. And I remember it was actually decent cash. I think I won like $2,000.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, so pretty cool for back in the day. After that, I think it was Donner events, and you know, right after that, I think that was around the time you were starting We Rock, and uh, Glenn Bonner, may rest in peace, and Curtis kind of took over the Cal Rocks thing,
Right.
and I started doing a lot of that. But side note about Glenn Bonner, that was a real rough day yesterday, and a
Agree.
real big loss.
I agree.
I,
It was.
I
I'm still speechless on it. I don't have the words.
yeah, I I spent all afternoon, evening, thinking about it, and um, it's a tough loss. We just had the Ultra Four Stampede about a month ago, and it was pretty cool. On the Thursday before the race, they had go-kart racing, and for all the competitors, anyone was signed up, got free stuff. But John Goodview was cool enough to give Glenn Bonner and I, free passes so we could go kart race with all the racers and stuff. And I got to go on the last round of that, and I think Glenn had been 3 times, and he grabbed me and he said, "Come over here." He's like, "We got to get in front of all these young guys. We got to be able to get out there and get in these carts first, otherwise we'll get stuck behind them." And it was pretty cool. He was having a great day, and like I said, I think he'd done the go-karts like 3 times, and he was all jazzed on them. But that was the last real time I hung out with Glenn and talked to him and stuff. And I'll definitely really miss the guy.
Amen. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So then we're back at it. Went to I know that there was a big rollover in one of your cars, and I don't remember if it. And I talked to, I think it was Jason Berger about it, and I don't remember if it was Berger was driving your car or you were driving your car.
It was so that was one. Yeah, that was my car, and Jason Berger was driving it.
Okay.
And just was kind of at a point. Jason had been doing pretty well in We Rock. I think he had like an FTM buggy, which was kind of one of the earlier, manufactured buggies on portals and stuff like that. And he just sold it, and he was kind of in between cars, and he had a really good spotter he was working well with, and had a lot of momentum. And he took the car and he filled the tires with shot, and took the thing out to Moon Rocks, and was able to get B7, which, for those of you who remember the only comp that ever really happened back at Moon Rocks, that was like the hardest line there. And he managed to get it in my car, so I let him use the car to compete in We Rock. And on the first obstacle, there was a real bad roll, and it's actually when I kind of found a lot of the early flaws in the car. Some tubes that were missing out of the structure that probably needed to be in there, and it was a real learning experience. Ended up breaking the TH400 case, and a couple other things. But anyway, he was okay, and actually got a lot of press off that. And a lot of people were just impressed how well the car held up. I was really disappointed because all I was looking at was all the things that went wrong that I didn't do right.
Right.
But after that, I got a couple of chassis orders almost immediately.
Nice.
Yeah. And at that time, Trent Fabrication was called Trent Fabrication and Auto Repair, because I basically had just gotten a bigger building and hired some auto mechanics, and was kind of trying to I don't know, auto repair was pretty lucrative back then, and pretty good way to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. So.
And auto repair is not part of the equation nowadays.
No, not at all. So let's see. In 2008, I bought the building down here in Sparks, and moved the fabrication into the building, or of the business down here. And the plan was for my wife Lisa to run the auto repair shop up in Tahoe City. And I was just going to move the fabrication in down here, and she could be up there with the kids and all that stuff. But I bought it at a really bad time. 2008 was a really bad year,
It became
and
so, didn't it?
it uh, it hit Tahoe City really hard. Um, Basically, before 2008, there was a lot of full-time residents in Tahoe City, and they all had a Subaru and a Super Duty, or something similar. Most of the full-time residents were contractors, and you know most of their wives drove Subarus and stuff like that. So we did a lot of maintenance on Subarus and Super Duties and stuff like that, and it really was a pretty good way to go. It was so good that we were able to think about expanding the business. But somewhere in 2008, 2009, my clientele up there just slowed down so much, and what was going on was all the full-time residents in Tahoe City were selling their places and cashing out and buying houses for half the price in Truckee. And it's just a couple miles away, so not that big of a deal. But had I started my shop in Truckee, it probably would have been a completely different deal.
Right.
So anyway, moved everything down here, and which was good because I was just paying absolutely ridiculous rent in Tahoe City. So was down here, and then I believe in 2012 was when we finally decided to go all buggy. Up until then we were still doing spring overs and working on people's Toyotas or whatever, just full service 4-wheel drive shop. And finally in 2012 we got so busy with buggies that we were able to go buggy only, and not just buggy only, but Trent Fab buggy only.
Right. And how many chassis have you produced, do you think?
Uh, we're over 200.
Wow.
Um, so in the mid 200s somewhere. And I think one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that I'm the only one who's ever built a Trent Fab chassis, and I still do. That's basically my role here at the shop. Is I do chassis and exhaust systems, and I've got guys that at this point now do pretty much everything else.
And that's a step up from the stick welding.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No kidding.
So you when you went from college and with your got your degrees and your certifications, you went back to San Jose. You worked at a computer company, did the whole night shift thing, and then that's
Yeah,
when you decided that wasn't your gig, and you went to Tahoe.
yeah. I basically, yeah. After school, I graduated, and I went back down to the Bay, and that was where I was from, and still had some friends down there and things like that. And yeah, I got a job at a computer company in San Jose, and we were building circuit board testers. And I got on the night shift because it paid a little bit more, and commuting was a little bit easier. Even back in the 90s, the Bay Area traffic was still really crazy, and so night shift it wasn't as bad. And um, after about a year, I just realized that all I was really doing was working. I'd work as much overtime as they'd give me, and all I really cared about was whatever projects we were working on, and you know, possibly being able to get a promotion and move up the ladder and get more money. And I just sort of woke up one day and I realized that if I didn't get out then, that that was all I was going to do with the rest of my life. And I just kind of wanted to do something more fun. So yeah, pretty much tore the band-aid off and moved up to Tahoe, and found a place to live, and found a job, and just decided that that was where I was going to be. And I'm glad I made the decision.
And that job up there, you'd mentioned it was a body shop.
Yeah, yeah. So just kind of looked around, and that was the first thing that popped up. And like I said, I was still pretty green. I had my ASE degree, but no real experience, and um, not really too much of a mechanical background, growing up. But I was pretty good at taking things apart and putting them back together. So I got really good at taking fenders on and off and stuff like that, and putting like I said, I could anything I could take apart, I could put back together. So it's a pretty good deal. So it worked out pretty well, but pretty short lived. And I ended up then working structural steel at a place in the neighborhood. More pay, and I was real fascinated with welding and wire feed welding, and just learning how to operate all those pieces of equipment and stuff they had at the fabrication shop.
And that's where you got certified in other forms of welding.
Yeah, wire feed, and that's pretty much all we did there. We just had big machines running 045 flux core all day long.
Okay. And what kind of fabrication was it? Was it like for the ski resorts up there, or was
No,
it?
we were building moment frames for lakefronts basically.
Okay,
So all just really big houses and stuff.
cool.
Yeah.
And then from the fabrication shop, doing prefab stuff for houses and stuff. How did you get into the shop?
Oh, so basically, I really liked doing the structural steel welding. It was a lot of fun. We moved around. We got to do some on-site work and stuff. It was pretty cool, exciting. But a shop came up for rent in the same neighborhood as where the big shop I was working was, and so myself and one of the guys I worked with, we decided to split it and have it as kind of a hobby shop. And once we signed the lease and everything like that, and word got out in the neighborhood that that's what we were doing, my boss let us both go. He basically said that he thought that'd be too much of a conflict if we worked for him, and we had our own business in the same neighborhood. I tried to explain to him that it was just a hobby shop, and I think it was $1,200 a month. So $600 a month to have a nice shop to be able to work on your toys in seemed pretty cool. But he didn't see it that way, so he let us go, and basically all of a sudden had to figure out how to pay the bills. So started building lumber racks and trailers, and just kind of got known around Tahoe City that we could weld and fabricate, and we're willing to take on odd jobs. So did a lot of weird stuff. I rebuilt this hand built tractor that was built especially for building mountain bike single track trails, and
Wow.
the thing was
Okay.
completely built by hand. And so I had to. He wanted the thing rebuilt because it was like 30 years old, and so I completely rebuilt the thing, and that was one of my weird side jobs I can remember. I remember getting the worst case of poison oak I've ever had in my whole life from taking this machine apart because it had been driven through so many batches of poison oak, I guess.
So the contact of the poison oak oils on the equipment got you
Oh,
the
bad.
poison oak, huh? Wow.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because there's no poison oak in Tahoe. So I guess this thing must have been down in the Bay Area somewhere cutting single track.
Interesting. And how wide was this tractor? I mean, it must have been like only 3 or 4 foot.
No, 24 inches wide.
24. Wow.
Yeah, it was the weirdest hand built machine. And it was all just electric over hydraulic, and all built out of simple stuff you could get from um, I don't know, Granger or something like that.
Interesting. So then that's when things became what was the shop called at that point?
So originally the shop was called Outback Innovations, and I started that with my business partner Steve Springborn, and he was someone that I grew up with down in the Bay Area, and he was he was the guy who kind of turned me on to four-wheel drives and jeeping and things like that, and we started the business together, and within a year the partnership kind of fell apart, and I was on my own, and I just hustled. I think for man a good 4 years, I don't think I did anything fun. It was just work, pay the bills, and buy more equipment, and you'd take on a job because you knew it'd pay for a piece of equipment that you'd always wanted, and anyway, it worked out pretty well though in the long run.
So one of the things that I noticed about most fab shops, and I hate to throw our industry under the bus, but a lot of the small fab shops have a hard time pricing and making any money. Um, was that the case for you early, or did you have that part of it solved early?
Well, when you go from making like $12 an hour, and all of a sudden you can start bidding stuff out based on more like a $65 an hour. um I mean, I guess it seemed like big money. It really wasn't, but you bid out a roll cage at 10 hours, and it takes you 25, and it's it's just kind of one of those things, live and learn. But I guess the way I looked at it early on was, if I can make enough money to pay all my bills, buy some equipment, and still be left over with 12 or $15 an hour, I guess I'm doing good.
Okay, yeah.
So that was kind of my way. But no, it was real difficult back then. It's crazy what fab shops are charging these days.
It is, but the amount of time that you put into a project, you may think in your mind, okay, like you said, this cage is going to be 10 hours, and then it takes you 20. Um, it's that you expand that to a complete chassis or a complete car, and it's a lot of people don't understand the amount of money that goes, the amount of time that goes into getting things right.
Yeah.
And that's why there's different price structures out there. The guys that do things right, which you're one of them, and then there's the
Oh,
guys
thanks.
that don't do things right, that undercut everybody else, and everybody goes, well, see, that's more honest right there. But then they get their stuff back, and what are they doing? They're going back, having to, complain on the internet about, the work that was shoddy done, and they end up coming full circle eventually.
Yeah. Oh, it's like they say. What did it say about a good, fast, cheap job? Pick any two.
Right. You're not going to get all
Yeah.
three.
Yeah.
So then you go from doing the rock crawling and building more trail rigs to going full buggy. And a lot of that was especially because of KOH.
Yeah. I so let's see. I had my first buggy that I built out of my TJ, and I was competing in that, and then I built my very first from scratch buggy, which was one of the very first Trent fabrication buggies built, with the Land Cruiser hood and all that stuff. Um, and So I had both cars, but I was just having all kinds of problems with the new car. First time I'd ever used an LS motor, first time I'd ever used a standalone computer and wiring harness and all that stuff. And it's just, the car ran, it moved, it worked, but it was just terrible. And I got the invitation to go to the very first King of the Hammers, and I could have gone in my old car, but I was just so frustrated that I didn't want to. You know, I really wanted to take my new car, but I didn't want to show up with it not running right and everything like that. And you know, so I missed the very first one. You know, otherwise it would have been 14 instead of the OG 13.
Right.
And I would say that's probably one of my bigger regrets was that I just didn't just put the old buggy on the trailer and go down there, because the thing probably would have finished the race. You know, it was a really reliable car and had all the bugs worked out and everything. But anyway, it's one of those hindsight is 2020 things.
Right. I have some of those regrets. I think we all do.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's just like, yeah, okay, whatever. You know, he's having, whatever, some kind of race, whatever. I just figured it was I'd been down to Johnson Valley and been wheeling with people and stuff like that. I guess nobody ever really thought it would take off like it did, and it's pretty awesome that it did.
Right. Absolutely. And so then that the first car or the second car that you built, the new car, you were able to campaign that at the next year.
Yeah. I took it till the next year. I can't remember what starting position I drew, but it was pretty far back, and we had a great start. We're just passing cars right away. I think there was 49 or 50 cars, and they were just falling like left and right. I mean, just every mile you'd pass a car or two, it seemed like. And we were just doing great in all the rock trails and everything like that. Got a flat, changed it, and got down to, I think, the bottom of Wrecking Ball, which was the where we're supposed to meet our pit crew and stuff like that, and get fuel. And let's see, I remember that the morning before that morning, I told my pit crew, I'm like, all I need out of you guys is this spare tire and this gas can. Bring it here, fill me up, put the spare tire on the back, because the one on the back is going to be flat. Well, I guess I wasn't clear enough, because they took the gas can, but when I got back to camp after the race, the tire was exactly where it was. So anyway, got down to the bottom of Wrecking Ball. They didn't have the flat tire, or they didn't have the spare tire, and I just remember thinking that was it. I was like, oh man, there's just no way I'm gonna be able to finish this race. Okay, whatever. So gas me up, which I remember feeling like it took forever. Trying to fill with motorcycle cans and stuff like that. And we just started heading up Wrecking Ball, and I think, let's see, there's a place where you can go left or you can go right, and there was one line I just run a bunch of times, and I knew it exactly how I wanted to run it, and I hit it the first time, and the car didn't do what I thought it would do, and I hit it the second time, and the car slipped over, and I broke the pinion yoke off my rear axle, and I remember looking down, and both my air lockers were off. I was just like, oh man, I got kind of rattled from the tire thing, and I guess just wasn't thinking clearly, and inexperience and all that. So anyway, that was my I was doing so good until I didn't story for the first official KOH in 08.
Well, at least you didn't say you were in first place. I mean, because I hear that as a race promoter. Man, I was doing so good. I was in first place until, and it's like, I have the official scoring here. You weren't quite in first place. You might have had a fast lap there and passed a couple people, but yeah.
No, I wasn't in first. I'd worked my way up into the top 10, and man, I can't even remember how many people finished that year. But I should have just. All you had to do was finish that year. But anyway, it was such a fun experience, and I just remember just being so hooked, and that's when it started. That's when okay, we're coming back next year and we're gonna do it right, and been doing it ever since.
And did you race that car a second year, or did you go back to the shop and immediately start on a new car?
I raced that car several times. And then started doing a lot of serious rock crawling in it. That's when that's when we did that's when Cal Rock started the Supermod class, and was it the Dustin Emick and I started kind of battling it off, and we did, and I think we battled really hard for like 3 seasons, um, and I think I beat him twice and he got me once. But it was a lot of fun doing all the Cal Rock stuff back then.
And that was with Bonner and with Curtis in the
Yes,
Cal
yeah,
Rocks, right?
yeah. So
So
yeah.
in so
Sorry, go ahead.
no go, the whole Trent Fab buggy thing. I know we talked about 200 plus chassis. How many of those were built for strictly as race cars, knowing that they were, when they got finished, they were going to go take a starting flag?
Boy, um, that probably started in probably like 2009, 2010. I would say is when people started building specifically, race cars. And I mean, back then there wasn't really much difference between a race car and a trail buggy. I mean, I think the first time I ran hammers, I didn't even have window nets. I just ran arm restraints because that was legal back then. And it was something you put on your elbows and you'd fasten into your lap belt.
Right. Now I remember those early years of KOH because I was doing the tech.
Uh-huh.
We Rock kind of sanctioned it
Yeah.
for tech and helping with the insurance and that kind of stuff for those guys to get started. And I remember the conversation was, we want to make people as safe as possible, but we don't want to disqualify any cars. Those are almost completely two different things.
Yeah.
I remember we had one Mexican team show up with a gas tank ratchet strapped into the bed of the truck. It was like a Bronco or a Blazer or something like that. And where the vent was supposed to be, they just had a bolt loosely in there so that it would, kind of like hold down. And it was like, guys, you can't do this. This thing just gets off camber a little bit and it's just leaking fuel everywhere. And that was kind of I think the end of that whole reasoning. We don't want to disqualify anybody. Just try to make it as, make everybody safe as possible.
Sure.
So the rules changed, which was a good thing.
Yeah.
So what your cars have stayed pretty much the same in the chassis look, is that correct?
So the early cars, which we basically, we called those the 100 proofs, and that was all the Tahoe design. Then we moved down to the Reno shop in 2008. We kind of started changing things a little bit, but still most of the cars, they all either had Land Cruiser hoods or Jeep hoods or something like that. And then it wasn't until let's see, probably around 2011, something like that. I'm gonna be wrong on this, but after a while after Dave Schneider had started working for me, and he wanted me to build a car for him, and wanted me to change it up, and so that's when the Top Shelf was born, and it was kind of a collaboration between the two of us. And then we had another guy who worked for me at the time that was a big help in it, and that was Taylor Tracy. And he worked here for a long time. Really kind of changed the way we do things around here, changed our welding style, our fabrication style, really kind of helped out with making a lot of changes. But after a a lot of arguments and knockdown, drag out fights and stuff like that. But between the three of us, we finally came up with the top shelf. And then what I didn't like about it was the first one had some splices in it, because just kind of how things evolved and stuff like that. For the car to be born, it basically had to have some tube splices in it. And that's just something I can't stand. I never ever wanted to, put out work to a customer or anything like that, with tube splices in a car or a structure. Maybe if it was wrecked and being repaired, that would be an acceptable time to do a splice, but not when something was brand new.
Right.
So, but anyway, after that car was finished, I was able to go in and go through all my notes and figure out where all the changes, needed to be made, to be able to do it all with bends and no splices. And that's how the top shelf chassis was born. And we've been producing that car up until about 2 years ago. And at that point, we shortened the nose of the car, which I didn't actually shorten the nose of the car. It's just an easy way to explain it to people. But actually what I did was I moved the whole cab of the car forward, and that effectively made the nose of the car shorter. But we call those the snub nose top shelf, and that's our current production vehicle.
Okay. And what's the percentage of racers to trail rigs, do you think?
I'd say about 75% of the cars we build are probably race cars.
Nice.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny. Over the years, we've done a number of 4-seat cars, and I think 5 or 6 of them have been cut and turned into 2-seaters, because people who said they never wanted to race eventually decided they really wanted to race. So, nothing breaks my heart more than taking a 4-seat car and cutting it up and turning it into a 2-seater. And it's funny when people call me now and they say they want a 4-seater. It's are you absolutely sure you want a 4-seater? Do you have kids? There's a whole list of questions that they need to answer to kind of prove to me that they really do need a 4-seater, because they're a lot more difficult to build than a 2-seat car.
Right. And why is that? Is it just because of the length of it?
If you just made the car longer and you just made, a really, really long wheelbase car, let's say you went with like 130 30-inch wheelbase car, it would be pretty easy. But it'd probably be kind of ugly, and it probably wouldn't wheel that well. But if you want to make something that still looks good and still can wheel well, it's a lot of work. So it's just really tough packaging all that stuff. I tell people these days that it's almost it's probably gonna end up costing the same amount of money as building 2 simple 2-seat cars as it will to build one really nice 4-seater.
Wow. Okay.
And for a lot of people, probably a lot more fun to have 2 2-seat cars.
Right. Somebody to wheel with instead of just being with.
Yeah. Right. It's like you want a 4-seat car because you got 2 kids and a wife. It's like, well, if you had 2 2-seat cars, you each take 1 kid and you go wheel, and you can self-recover if there's problems. You don't have to organize going with other people and stuff like that. It's a pretty cool way to go. The 2-car trailer can get a little bit difficult, but everything has its problems.
Right. Absolutely. So let's talk family a little bit. You've got a couple of kids?
Yeah, 4.
That's a little more than a couple. That's a couple. Yeah.
Well, when I met Lisa, she had 2 kids, and so Jalen, the oldest, was 7 at the time, and Woody was 5, and they just pretty much became my kids. And really awesome kids. I've always treated them, as if they were my own. And Lisa asked me if I wanted to have my own kids, and I just kind of said why. We already have kids. I don't really see why we go out of our way to have more. And so we didn't really plan on it. And we were having a really good time, traveling all over the country, rock crawling, racing, pretty much doing whatever we wanted. Um, and then Lisa got pregnant with twins in 2008, right when we had purchased the shop down in Reno.
Perfect timing.
So yeah. So
Plus, the
it was
economy sucked at that time.
the economy sucked. It was a real tough time. Lisa still likes to tease me and say that my hands went on my head and they didn't come off for like 2 months because just so stressed out about it. And then I guess it's okay. We're having a kid, no big deal. But it's like twins. Wow, that's a big commitment. And I remember one of the guys who worked for me at the time. He said, maybe it'll be a boy and a girl. You'll have to knock it all out at one shot. And he ended up being right, and had boy girl twins, and they were born healthy and happy. I just remember being so stressed out about that. Like, it's one thing when I had kids that were Lisa's, but they were already happy and healthy, and there was nothing to worry about. But then all of a sudden, I guess I can just stress out about just about anything. But it was just like, oh man, what if they're not okay? What if something happens? Anyway, they came out happy and healthy, and that's just made me just as happy as could be.
And you've got some that are racing now?
So both the boys race. And actually the first kid in the family to race was the oldest, Jalen. And when she was 12, she started racing BMX. And she raced up until she was 15. She was nationally ranked. She was on the Olympic development team.
Wow.
And at 15 years old, all of a sudden, she just decided that she wanted to be a good student and she wanted to go to college. And she quit racing and she went straight to basically getting a 4.0, or I don't know how you get better than a 4.0, but she always managed to. And she's just been a really dedicated student, and she's just about to get out of chiropractic school, and she'll be a chiropractor at 26.
Very good.
Yeah, so that's pretty awesome. And then Woody started working for me right out of high school, and he's now 23, and been working here every day since he's 18. And he started. Dave Schneider, who was working for me, gave him the opportunity to race his car about, say, 4 years ago. And Woody just turned out to be a wheelman. He just had a real knack for it. I think he put the car on the podium the first time he ever raced it in a NorCal. And I did everything I could to put together a car for him. So we actually we built a car for Cameron Steele that he raced at Hammers. Let's see, that would be 21, I think. So Woody and I hustled really hard and basically built that car together. I mean, other guys at the shop helped too. Aaron did all the wiring, everything like that. But that was the first real aluminum work that Woody had ever done. First dash he'd ever built and stuff like that. And I just kind of really pushed him to build a car with me. And then Cameron raced it the one race, and Woody's raced it ever since. And just done a phenomenal job.
Excellent.
Yeah. And then little brother Dylan, he was 6 is when John Goodby announced that he was going to start doing the 170 side-by-side racing. So it's pretty cool deal. We went out to the Polaris dealership and signed on the dotted line, and I thought it'd be really fun to just throw my kid in this off the shelf, Polaris car and let him go race. And little did I know that I was going to have to learn everything about building a Polaris 170, because those things they can hardly turn 3 or 4 laps without the chain falling off, just straight off the showroom floor.
Interesting.
So anyway, I ended up, I don't know how many seasons we did the 170 for, and until he aged out, basically. But it's so funny. The 170 racing is just the most competitive form of racing I think I've ever been involved in. The parents are just crazy. Nobody will tell you anything. Everything's a big secret. Figuring out how to build that thing was definitely a chore, but ended up building him a pretty cool car, and I think he won a couple of championships, and then he's now racing the Youth 1000 RS1 class. He moved up to that when he was 12. He's been doing that for a couple seasons, and then this year he raced the first King of the Hammers youth race, and he was able to win that. So we were really, really stoked on that. That was an awesome high point of King of the Hammers this year. And then for Woody to get second, that was another big high point. Definitely my best King of the Hammers ever. When you can have 2 kids on the podium, it's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
And then Dylan just won the Ultra 4 Stampede also in the youth class. So it's been pretty exciting. Actually, way more gratifying watching your kids race than it is racing yourself.
Right. I remember when Little Rich ran KOH, and when he was competing at with Cow Rocks, when him and Josh England went over there in his buggy, and it was always good to see them out there doing it instead of working on the sidelines at our events. It was good to see them getting out there and being able to do it. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So what's in the future for Derek Trent and Lisa Trent and the Trent Fab Works?
Well, we're busy at Trent Fab. We've been real fortunate. I've still got plenty of work, and plenty of people still want to build cars, regardless of all the scary stuff that's going on politically these days. It amazes me that people still want to build cars, but I'm really thankful that they do, and it's been great. So my like I said, Woody's been working with me for the last 5 years, and plan is pretty much for him to take the shop over. Dylan is he also comes in with me pretty much every day in the summer, and just pretty much does whatever we ask him to, and he also preps his own car and everything like that here. But I think in the future it's going to be passing the torch to my kids. Woody's already said that's what he wants to do. If my son Dylan wants to also, then they can be partners. But if he doesn't want to, no pressure.
Okay. And what would your words of wisdom or advice be to somebody that wanted to get into the industry themselves? Maybe somebody that's just a youngster that's been on the trail a couple of times, or somebody even that's a little older that says, instead of just being a trail wheeler, I want to build, or I want to race. What would be your words of wisdom?
It just has to be something that you're passionate about. If I really feel like everyone in this industry is passionate about it, and we do it because we love it. We don't do it because we're trying to get rich. If I wasn't doing this kind of work, I would be working another job so I could go home and do this kind of stuff in my off time. So I I guess for me personally, I just chose to do this because I enjoy it, and it's what I like doing. I don't necessarily do it for the money. I do it for the gratification of seeing the stuff I do, that I've built work. There's nothing better than going to races and seeing cars out on the track, and when cars go by, people say, wow, did you hear the way the exhaust sounds on that car? I mean, nothing makes me feel better than when somebody says that about one of my cars. It makes me really happy.
Being that you're the one putting the exhausts together, that helps.
Yeah. Our cars have a really unique sound compared to most of the other cars, and kind of more of a high pitched F1 type sound. And it's something that I kind of strive to create.
Is that because of the 8-to-1?
Yeah, I do kind of a unique 8-to-1. I still use 2 4-to-1 collectors, but I do kind of a unique merge, and it just creates a really great sound. And it's, when you put a bigger cube motor in, or higher compression motor in, or something like that, it might change the sound a little bit, but even the stock LS motors just sound awesome with our exhaust on them.
Cool. Excellent. Well,
Yeah.
Derek, I want to say thank you so much for spending the time this morning and having this conversation about your life and what you've gone through to get where you're at, and knowing about what your future is going to be. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Hey, thank you very much, Rich.
All right. And you know what? Good luck and in the future, and I hope everything goes your way.
All right. Same to you. Thank you very much, Rich.
All right. You
Take
take
care.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, that's another episode of Conversations with Big Rich. I'd like to thank you all for listening. If you could do us a favor and leave us a review on any podcast service that you happen to be listening on, or send us an email or a text message or a Facebook message, and let me know any ideas that you have, or if there's anybody that you have that you think would be a great guest, please forward the contact information to me so that we can try to get them on. And always remember, live life to the fullest. Enjoying life is a must. Follow your dreams and live life with all the gusto you can. Thank you.